Hello everyone, welcome to your next presentation. So as you just saw, there were several poster presentations done by the class that I was a teaching assistant for. Hopefully you enjoyed their posters. We're moving on to the next part of our virtual youth summit, where you'll see presentations done by myself, members of the APR staff, as well as students from my class and students from Stand Up and Rebel. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. This presentation will be on underage drinking. How common is underage drinking? Alcohol is the most commonly used drug by youths in the United States. People who are underage are more likely to binge drink. Now, what is binge drinking? Binge drinking is 4 drinks in an hour for females and 5 for males. So binge drinking is a large amount of alcohol in a small amount of time. Excessive drinking in use is linked to more than 4,300 underage deaths annually. That's why this presentation is so important, right? Underage drinking is very common. Underage drinking tends to lead to binge drinking, and unfortunately, excessive drinking is linked to over 4,300 underage deaths annually. That is things that these presentations are trying to inform you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes that other people are making. So, what is the risk of dependency? Drinking at young ages has been linked to the development of alcohol use disorders later in life. So what this means is that people who start drinking before the age of 15 are 4 times more likely to meet the criteria of alcohol dependence at some point in their lives. As you can see by the chart here, there is a strong link between drinking alcohol at a younger age and the people that are more likely to be both dependent on alcohol and or misuse alcohol. That's why it's so important to understand that when people are telling you, hey, this is something that you shouldn't be doing, there are facts and statistics to back this up. This chart shows that the younger that people are exposed to alcohol and start drinking regularly, the more likely they are going to develop alcohol dependence at some point in their lives. So, in addition to potentially damaging your brain and making it more likely for you to become dependent on alcohol later on in life, there are several consequences of drinking underage. The human brain develops well into your 20s. Alcohol can alter this development, potentially affecting both brain structure and your brain function. It can lead to cognitive issues and makes the brain more prone to alcohol dependence. So what this is doing is it's changing the way that your brain is structured and the way that the reward systems in your brain work. And during such a pivotal point in development, right, up until you're 25, well into your 20s, if you're misusing alcohol, you not only change the basic structure of your brain, but you also change the way your brain functions, and it leads to cognitive issues and the potential for you to misuse alcohol later on in life. That isn't the only thing that can happen. Youths who drink underage are more likely to experience the following: school problems. This is either declining grades, excessive school absences, social problems that can happen in school, out of school, but you're more likely to be contentious, to fight. There's a lack of participation in activities. You tend to see somebody that was athletic and involved in a lot of sports just lose that desire to compete, lose the desire to go to their after school activities, lose the desire to get involved in their community, lose the desire to go to church, to do many things. Legal problems. Getting arrested for drunk driving or fighting while you're intoxicated is not a 1 day mistake. That mistake could stick with you for a long time. There are people that I know that were caught driving under the influence before we turned 18. As many of you know, in New Jersey, you have a probationary license until you become 18, and they were not able to get their license even when they turned 18. A mistake that you make because of misuse of alcohol or an alcohol dependence is not a 1 day mistake. It will stick with you. And that ties into the last set of problems: physical problems, hangovers, alcohol related illnesses, right? Alcohol weakens your immune system. You just saw in the underage drinking poster, right? Alcohol is linked to not just, liver problems and other things, but your immune system is weaker. You tend to get more sick more often, right? I think your immune system is weaker for a whole 24 hours after you drink. It is not just a 1 day decision or a 3 hour decision that you're making, right? Misusing alcohol can have ramifications for days, months, even years. It's a serious issue. Not only does alcohol hinder the development of your brain, but it also hinders your natural growth and your sexual development. It can lead to unwanted, unplanned, and unprotected sexual activity. It also leads to memory problems and the potential misuse of other drugs. Now, what's really important when we look at this slide is obviously it has the growth disruption and sexual development disruption. But alcohol lowers your inhibitions, it lowers your decision making skills, it lowers your judgment, it lowers your coordination, right? These are things that are serious problems that every single time someone drinks, they may not have an unwanted sexual activity. They may not misuse another drug, but alcohol changes your decision making. It changes your inhibitions. It leads to bad decisions. Unfortunately, there are many people that die because of underage drinking. They can be either physically or sexually assaulted. There is a high risk of those people that are intoxicated committing suicide. With binge drinking, again, that's 5 drinks in an hour for males and 4 drinks for females. That leads to alcohol poisoning. Drinking games lead to alcohol poisoning, as well as alcohol-related car crashes and other injuries. As you can see by this chart, 38% of people that die because of underage drinking are involved in a motor vehicle crash. 32% of them are involved in homicides. Remember, alcohol can lead to violence. You have a lowered inhibition, worse judgment. Somebody that you fight while you're both under the influence may, with their uncoordinated state, fall, hit their head, and potentially die. You can make a bad decision that has a lasting impact on your life. So I would like to introduce this video. It shows the effects of underage drinking on the brain. Now, in the beginning, there's a phone number that is shown. This number is no longer in service. I'm going to show this number right now as well as after the video. But if you or someone you know and care about are struggling with recovery or a substance use disorder, please use the number on screen now. 855 652 3737. Again, I'm going to leave this for a second. I'm going to watch the video and then I'll show it one more time.
Alcohol is a depressant that affects both inhibitory and excitatory neurotransmitters such as glutamate and GABA, which is why you feel less inhibited and less coordinated after a few drinks. Alcohol's effects on the brain may also cause slurred speech, poor judgment, confusion, slowed reaction times, worsened motor performance, and blurry vision. Teenagers who drink are even more susceptible to alcohol's negative effects because their brains are still developing. Two parts of the brain that are particularly affected by alcohol during the teenage years are the hippocampus and the prefrontal lobe. The hippocampus plays a pivotal role in learning and memory formation. Studies of adolescents show that heavy and extended alcohol use is associated with a 10% reduction in the size of the hippocampus. It also shows that the function of the hippocampus is uniquely sensitive to alcohol at this age, and that alcohol may be poisonous to its nerve cells, damaging or destroying them. As a result, teenagers who regularly drink have difficulty creating new, lasting memories or recalling information. The prefrontal lobe is important for planning, judgment, decision-making, impulse control, and language. This area of the brain continues to change during the teenage years and into the early 20s. Research with heavy drinking adolescents show that these young people have smaller prefrontal lobes than young people of the same age who do not drink. While research tells us alcohol can damage the developing brain, it is not clear how much alcohol it takes to do this. So avoiding alcohol during the teenage years is certainly the safest choice. If you or a loved one is suffering from alcohol addiction or abuse, call our helpline today.
Again, if you guys need any help, do not hesitate to reach out to this number, 855 652 3737. Now, I just want to recap that video with you guys one more time and explain why I included that. It's very easy for, you to look at the stats and listen to all the videos and stuff like that. And this is why I shouldn't drink. This is why they're telling me not to drink. But I really get a sense of knowledge from actually looking at different graphs or different videos, and I really think that if you look at the video and you see the size difference in the prefrontal cortex and you see the size difference in the brain, it really shows how underage drinking can affect you. Alcohol impaired driving. Drinking under the age of 21 is strongly linked with alcohol impaired driving. The 2017 Youth Risk Behavior Survey found that among high school students in the last 30 days, 6% drove after drinking alcohol, and 17% rode with a driver who had been drinking alcohol. You have a responsibility to yourself and your friends to stop somebody from making that decision. Driving under the influence not only affects you, but it affects the people around you as well. The minimum legal drinking age of 21 saves lives. When the minimum drinking age became 21 for all states, there was a 16% decline in motor vehicle crashes. The minimum legal drinking age of 21 protects drinkers from alcohol and other drug dependence, adverse birth outcomes, and suicide/homicide. If you get behind a wheel under the influence of alcohol, you are not the same driver as you would be not under the influence. A little bit later in the Youth Summit, you're going to see a presentation on peer pressure. Peer pressure is a major influence in many teenagers' lives, whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whether it's TikTok that you see videos that glorify alcohol use, or your friends just tell you, oh, just drink, it's not that big of a deal. There is a big pressure to drink at a young age. So these next couple of slides are going to show you guys how to say no. You need to decide you don't want to drink ahead of time. Let your friends know alcohol doesn't taste good. I want to keep a clear head and be aware of my surroundings. I want to help people who drank too much. Establish going into the party, the situation that alcohol is going to be present, that you do not want to drink. Plan ahead. If you're going to a party with drinking, plan how you're going to say no. A situation that I was put in, right? I was put in a situation where people were offering me a substance, and I faked a phone call from my aunt, and I pretended like I was mad at her for having to pick me up, right? Stuff like that works. You don't have to give a reason to say no. You are allowed to just say no. If people pressure you, you can give these answers. You are allowed to say no. There are other alternatives to alcohol, such as juice, soda, water. There are plenty of things to do to have fun without alcohol, right? If you're worried about going to a party with drinking, you don't have to put yourself in that situation. If you do know that there is going to be drinking, these phrases are great ways to refuse. So, how to say no? Be direct. I just don't want to drink. I'm having fun without alcohol and I want to keep it that way. If you're not comfortable with being direct, give a reason. I have a headache, or my stomach isn't feeling well. I can't. Tomorrow I have work. If you're not comfortable with that, use humor. I'll feel better if my head isn't in the toilet all night. There are many methods for you to refuse, right? Be direct. Give a reason. Use humor. Use an excuse like I did, right? Call your mom and pretend to be mad at her and say, I can't believe you're picking me up from a party. Have a friend or a person that you can turn to, that if you're not comfortable with the situation, they can help you get out of it, right? Surround yourself with people that want you to feel safe and secure and know how to say no. Now, if the last two slides that I went over don't help you, here's a video on how to say no. The number one thing I want you guys to take away from that video is the last sentence that we saw. Make a definitive decision. Whether it's making an excuse, being direct, using humor, a distraction, make a definitive decision. All right? Nobody can force you to do something that you don't want to do. So, in summary, underage drinking leads to nearly 5,000 deaths every single year. There are many, many consequences of underage drinking, such as increased risk of dependency, school issues, social issues, legal issues, and many, many more. The minimum legal drinking age helps save lives, prevent motor vehicle crashes, and decreases underage drinking. Practice how to refuse alcohol before you are in an environment where alcohol is being used. I just want to mention something that we mention at Stockton, right? Alcohol, again, affects four things mostly, and you can use a really good acronym to remember this. I just really care. Alcohol affects your inhibitions, your judgment, your reaction time, and your coordination. Alcohol is not something that should be glorified. You need to understand the effects of alcohol, not just in the short term, but also the long term. You need to understand that alcohol affects your decision making. It affects your inhibitions, your willingness to do things that you normally would not. Your coordination. Many people fall, break bones, chip teeth. They get seriously injured because of their lack of coordination and reaction time. Driving under the influence is one of the most irresponsible decisions that a person can make. Their reactions are hindered, and it is a decision that not only puts the driver at risk, but also the passengers, as well as any other person on the road that night. If you guys would like any more information, here are my sources. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of the Youth Summit. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please have a great rest of your day.